Hi everyone, this is Kelly Thompson with St. John's River Keeper. We are here this morning at Julington Durbin-Creek Preserve, which is a preserve conservation land that's over 2,000 acres here in Jacksonville, Florida. It's a very important piece of conservation land, one, because it is an island in the midst of this area that is experiencing tremendous growth in commercial and residential. You can find many plant and animal species here that are listed, and so this island of conservation is so hugely important to all of us here in Jacksonville. It's a wonderful place to recreate, to go for hikes, to put your kayak in, to take long walks. You can't have clean water without conservation lands. Julington Durbin-Creek Preserve is a very important water quality recharge system for our St. John's River, and the quality of Julington and Durbin Creeks matter greatly to that of our St. John's River, as those are two major tributaries here in our lower basin that flow into the St. John. And today we are going to be looking down at the ground for our native plant friends. We are here with Adam Arendell with the Florida Native Plant Society Ixia chapter, and he's going to be taking us on a wonderful walk and journey. We're hoping that we can find the rare Bartram's Ixia, which is a beautiful native flower. It's purple and it only blooms certain times of the year early in the morning, which is why we're here early. And get your feet wet as we explore Julington Durbin-Creek Preserve and hunt for the rare Bartram's Ixia.
Hello everyone, I'm Adam Arendell with the Ixia chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society, and today we're at the Julington Creek Preserve in South Duval County. And so the preserve is formed on a peninsula that is formed by the junctions of Julington and Durbin Creeks, and is a long sandy ridge that's bordered by extensive floodplain swamps and marshes along the creeks. And this protects approximately 9 miles of shoreline and is critical for water quality and floodplain protection along the creeks and the St. John's River. And so today we're going to be visiting the Mesic Flatwoods, and the Mesic Flatwoods are characterized by the tall open canopy of longleaf pine and the dense low ground level of low shrubs, herbaceous plants, and grasses. And this is a fire-dependent ecosystem, so without seasonal fires, faster growing plant species such as oaks and gallberry, they quickly take over the understory and shade everything out. So with seasonal fire, we see greater plants and animal diversity. So this is the American beautyberry, Colicarp Americana, and this is an excellent first-timer native plant to use in a garden. It can handle a wide variety of landscaping spots like dry, wet, shady, full sun. I've seen it growing in all kinds of places. This is a really small one, but it gets around, I've seen it about 6 or 7 feet tall. And it has these little berries on it that turn purple eventually. And it's a really important wildlife food source, especially for birds. But it makes a really good landscape plant. So if you give it plenty of water, it'll get real tall, and then you can just kind of forget about watering it. And really great native plant to have in the garden. So this is the longleaf pine, Pinus palustris. This is a really important tree species out here. It's found throughout the southeast. Pretty much less than 5% of its pre-settlement range is left due to clear-cutting practices in the early century. It was an important source for lumber. Also naval ships as well used it, and it was used for tar, pine tar as well. So it's a really important food and nesting source as well for wildlife. The red cockaded woodpecker uses its mature and dead trees. It uses the hollows for nesting sites. So it's really critical that we keep these around. We're really lucky too that we have a lot of this in the preserve. It has evolved its life cycle with fire. So without seasonal fires, they will not germinate from their cones. The understory will get crowded out with vegetation and oaks, and will shade everything out. So it's really important to keep prescribed and seasonal fires in the longleaf pine community. This is a really common Pineland milkweed that we see a lot, and it's definitely one of my favorites. Just it has this really like red. It's actually kind of red and orange too, I've seen. But it's a fire dependent species as well. So without seasonal fires, you get a lot of the grasses and trees tend to take over and shade it out. So the cool thing with this butterfly weed, we see it in different phases. So we have it in bloom, and then we have it with the pods, with seed pods. And like every milkweed and Asclepia, this is a very important host plant for monarchs and queen butterflies. Also important nectar source for bees and wasps as well. So this is Saracenia minor, the hooded pitcher plant, and it's in flower. Very strange flower. They're usually yellow, and I think it's a little bit shady in here, so that's why they're a little bit more green. Looking for ideas about planting native plants and you're new to everything, I'd recommend just going out to nature and just finding a plant that you like and are interested in, and then reaching out to the Native Plant Society. So fnps.org is the main branch of the Florida Native Plant Society, or you can go to our local chapter, which is the Ixia chapter, and that's ixia.fnpschapters.org. So ixia.fnpschapters.org, and we have plenty of information and resources for native plants. And we also have monthly meetings as well, so check it out. This is Berlandia pumila. This is a really cool aster. I guess it gets its soft green eyes after the petals kind of fall off. It has this really nice green color behind it. But this flower is really cool. It has a really unique chocolatey smell. It's kind of like cocoa smell, but it's very, very pleasant. If you ever get the chance to come out here, definitely give it a smell. This is the Savannah Meadow Beauty, and this is Rexia aliphanis. And this is one of my favorite Rexia species, and it's the tallest one as well. I just love the really bright fuchsia color on top of the bright yellow stamens. And so this is pollinated by a wide variety of pollinators, such as bumblebees and bees. And I really love the hypanthiums on the back. Like most Rexia species, they have this hypanthium behind the flower. And this one, you can see, has these glandular hairs. It's really hard to see, but it's different per species, so it's a good identification marker. But as far as most Rexias, this is probably the easiest one to identify. But this is found throughout the southeast, so it's pretty common in the Flatwoods.
Ready.
So this is Kalmia Hersuda. Common name is hairy wiki, and it's in the Ericaceae family, which is the same family as like blueberries, the tar flower. This is really common in the margins of floodplain swamps and open savannas. It's pollinated by all kinds of bees and I think even butterflies. The really cool thing with this plant that I like is the stamens. If you see in there, they're spring loaded. So it's going to be hard to do it with my finger, but when the pollinator lands on the flower, it releases the stamen right there, and the stamen smacks the pollinator with the pollen. All right, everyone, so we have a really cool find today. This is the Bartram's Ixia. This is Caledoria Calistina. This is a really rare and endangered plant, and I believe it's in the iris family. It's found in only around 7 counties. It's endangered due to fire suppression and development from habitat. So that's a kind of a common thing with a lot of endangered plant species. But this one, you have to be really early to see it in bloom. By around 10 o'clock, the heat of the day tends to kind of wilt it and they fall. It's a really, really pretty plant.
Back in 2018, St. John's Riverkeeper actually worked with many partners here locally and across the state to save Julington Durbin-Creek Preserve as a preserve. It was under threat from development, which raised the question, what does conservation land mean? And we are so glad that we were successful with the help of our dear partners and many of you citizens who raised your voices and made a call to action to keep Julington Durbin-Creek a preserve, which now it is for all of us to enjoy. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you learned a lot, and get your feet wet with us next time on our next field trip.